Hi everyone, I have something to read to you. You may or may not have noticed my absence latterly, but I have been drowning in a sea of doubt regarding whether humanity can regain some kind of footing, or whether we are eternally sunk in a sea of AI, SDGs, ESGs, C40s, and all other acronyms preceding the collapse of civilization. The past 6 months have worn down my soul. I have rarely been amongst like-minded people, and daily in the company of people who doubt my sanity, such that the disconnect between the way that I see the world and the way that most of the people I encounter see the world is so vast that I feel that I'm at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, trying to shout out to people at the top of K2 that Comet Gulag is headed our way, and they're looking at each other smugly and saying, "What's a gulag?" People don't even seem to have the vocabulary or frame of reference for the conversations that are lacking. To be fair, unless I have the time to write down what I am thinking, I'm largely disarmed in the face of people who think that I am at worst stupid and at best deeply misled and therefore stupid. I don't have the affinity for that the finest of our minds have for calmly and persuasively relaying the facts in the face of naked disbelief. I seem to lose all my confidence when people look at me like I'm deluded. I also don't want to upset people, which makes it hard to say you don't know what you're talking about because all you listen to is propaganda. And by the way, the excess mortality count in the UK alone since the rollout of the jabs is well over 100,000 people. That's like more than 10,000 jumbo jets spontaneously combusting in the skies above you. And if the BBC said it wasn't happening, even though you could see the smoke particles from the explosion thinning out to create new and unnatural cloud formations right before your very eyes, would you still deny the atrocity? Anyway, my son asked me the other day while we were at the beach, "Mummy, why don't you make your videos anymore?" And I found I couldn't craft a response that didn't sound at best self-indulgent and at worst defeatist. And it made me realize I didn't want to be that person in his eyes, that person who knew what was going on but was too tired to fight anymore, that person who had given up trying because she was frightened of confrontation, that person who gave away his future without fighting to the death. So here I am, attempting to rise like an ostrich from the sand. If you too have been struggling with the existential threat of denying your climate denial, if you too have been worried about the hypocrisy of speaking out against conveniences that you occasionally take advantage of because the bus won't take change and you don't have enough money in your bank account to give them a tenner, if you too have found yourself triggered into a fight or flight response by trying to talk to someone who thinks you should be sectioned, then this video is for you. If I can do it, you can do it. And I say that with great humility. I don't want to do this anymore. Human computation and biodigital convergence weren't what I signed up for. I thought that this was a fight for bodily autonomy. I thought that truth, justice, and reparation would prevail. I was so naive that I have had my whole world ripped out from under me. I wasn't like some of the seasoned campaigners out there. I only knew about the Balfour Declaration in relation to Bismarck's opportunism. I thought that eugenics had died out. I thought that the Western press was more or less free and unbiased. I thought that people who saw themselves as right wing didn't care about people less fortunate than themselves. I thought that being left wing made you one of the good guys. I thought that there was a left and a right wing, and that while a certain degree of corruption in any government is inevitable, that it would be impossible to buy off an entire party, or indeed both parties. I thought that billionaires didn't care about people, but they weren't actively out to get them. I had never heard of the terms controlled opposition, smart city, net zero, social and emotional learning, technocracy, transhumanism, or even the humble chemtrail. And to my credit, I'd never read an LED street lighting manual either. I couldn't have told you a sustainable development goal from an environmental and social governance score. But I learned, and sometimes I enjoyed the learning. I never enjoyed the knowing, though, and over time the knowing became almost impossible to tolerate. The degree of isolation that it has brought to my everyday life, surrounded as I am by people who don't know and who don't want to know, can only be measured in units of devastation. Knowing the bigger picture has been far worse for me than having to stand up for bodily autonomy against masks and vaccines. Providing a pariah for people to silently loathe was a piece of pie by comparison to the rest of the knowing. The rest of the knowing means that almost every conversation that I have with anyone either involves in me engaging in a farce for the sake of my sanity, which is a beautiful oxymoron, even if I do say so myself, or being perceived as contentious and argumentative and a fascist, which turns out to be rather a disadvantage. I mean, I'm British and I can't even talk about the bloody weather. But I recognize that none of this is what anyone wants, and nor does anyone want the hostility that it engenders. And no matter what we say to one another online, we are more or less alone in our everyday lives, having had our worlds torn asunder from us in every which possible way. In a few short years, we have been threatened with a medical intervention that we knew from the beginning to be suspect. We have been vilified, ridiculed, and ostracized. We've learned that our schooling was mostly lies and manipulation. We failed to make people listen, and we've watched people die. We have watched the world that we thought we knew become unrecognizable in ways which belie a collective cultural psychosis with cancer of the front hole and assisted dying for the poor. We're tired, beaten, and bruised, and we're outnumbered. Bet you're really glad I'm back, hey? So, what do I have to say that's good? What do I have to say that turns this solo violin concerto into an orchestral rallying call? I say, bring back conscription and make sure that every chicken has a digital ID, obviously. Thank you so much for listening. I've missed you. I love you.